What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. And this one is my team selection for Game Week 2. So I'm going to run you through how the team is looking, thoughts on transfers, captaincy, all that good stuff. And I'll quickly show you how I did in Game Week 1 as well. So let's get into it. So pre-season is always great in FPL. You've got all that hope that this is going to be your season. You're going to smash it right from the start. Then Game Week 1 hits and reality sets in, at least for my team. 46 points. I couldn't even hit 50 in the opening game week. My game week rank was 6.9 million, and because it's the first game week, it's also my overall rank as well. So just inside the top 7 million after the first week. I won't call it a complete disaster, but it's really not great. There's no point sugarcoating it. I do truly believe that rank doesn't matter all that much right now, but it would be nice to be sitting a little bit higher. I haven't used any chips, of course. That could help me out later on, but it's not a great start, right? I only had 3 players that got me points. Sanchez 8-pointer against Crystal Palace, obviously after that disallowed free kick from Eze. Pedro Porro 6-pointer, which was pretty much a banker, right? Burnley at home, clean sheet. And then Salah scored that late goal against Bournemouth on the opening night. 16-pointer because I had him as my captain. Everybody else blanked. I had all that concern about, do I go for Wirtz? Do I go for Watkins? Do I, go for both, etc.? I ended up on both, along with Fernandes and Palmer, and each one of those players blanked. Dewsbury Hall, blank, on Monday Night Football. Wasn't a great watch. Leeds were much better than Everton. Strand-Larsen 2-pointer against Man City. I wasn't expecting huge returns from him, to be fair, and I actually thought he looked quite good. But still, another blank. Anderson blank, Nico Williams 1-pointer. It was just rubbish, and my bench didn't do any better either. I think the thing to ask yourself is, do you have massive regrets about how you lined up in Game Week 1? And it's sometimes a difficult question to answer because a lot of those regrets tend to be, I wish I'd just gone for the players that had scored points, because obviously that's just a natural thing to do. I was on the deadline stream strongly considering Wirtz to Rodgers, Dewsbury Hall to Reinders, and then maybe using 0.5 million in my defence instead. Obviously, I would have got an extra 8 points from having Reinders instead of Dewsbury Hall. I may have gone for Romero instead of Agbadou and played him over Anderson. So that would have given me like another 4 or so points. So it could have been an extra 12 points. Then I'm closer to 60. I probably would have been really happy with that after 1 week without any chips. But I don't know, was it a massive mistake to not go that route? It looks stupid now. And I knew this would happen if Reinders did well straight away. It would just look stupid not having gone for him. But it's just one player. It could turn around in Game Week 2. So I don't have too many regrets. Like, thoughts are racing through my mind. Maybe I should have just bench boosted in Game Week 1 because actually my bench over the next few weeks doesn't look great. I'm not sure how I'm going to pivot to a great bench. Mark Guiu might not get any minutes, but also we might be sat here in 3 or 4 weeks' time and he's starting regularly, right? We just don't know yet. It's only 1 week. So although I have all those thoughts, which is just natural as a human being, about all the mistakes, I should have done this, should have done that, etc., when I think about it a little bit more, like, it's just 1 week. Things could change dramatically after this week. I might be sat here, or I hope I'm sat here next week saying I've had like an amazing week. So yeah, I can't sugarcoat it. Really bad start. It doesn't mean that it's going to be a terrible season. It could be a terrible season, but it also may not be, right? I've seen plenty of people's ranks history in the past where they've had a really bad start and they just absolutely smash it later on. There's 38 weeks in this season. Rank only matters at the end. If that's something you're interested in. You might not be, by the way. It might just be mini leagues for you. Absolutely fine. But for me, I want to get that good overall rank. So yeah, Game Week 1, less than 50 points. Let's try and get at least 50 plus in Game Week 2. So I've got a couple of benching dilemmas in my defence for Game Week 2. The first one is the goalkeeper position. Do I play Sanchez against West Ham away or Dubravka against Sunderland at home? My intention in pre-season was to play double Burnley defence this week. So Esteve and Dubravka. I've got cold feet on it right now, then. I've put Sanchez in. I do feel like that's a little bit just splitting the risk, because if Burnley do concede, then I've got the chance to get a clean sheet from Sanchez instead. I wouldn't be surprised if I switch back by the deadline, because I really don't mind double Burnley defence against Sunderland at home. Like, that is going to be their easiest fixture of the season. And if I'm not confident playing them in that game, I'm never going to be confident playing them. So I might switch back, but at the moment, Sanchez is in the 11. Esteve's going nowhere. I'm definitely going to play him this week. The other benching dilemma is Anderson versus Pedro Porro. Now, Man United at home is definitely an easier fixture than Man City away. And if you look at the defensive numbers from last year, Fulham, expected goals conceded, were much better than Spurs. And I think we all expect Spurs to improve this year. I don't know if it's going to be enough to catch up with Fulham. So I really think I should play Anderson. The reason that I'm tempted by Porro is because he's going to play as a wing back. I mean, not guaranteed, but I think they will set up with that back three. So he's probably going to play as a wing back, and he's going to take some set pieces. The thing is, against Man City, when we say wing back, we're picturing like Munoz at Crystal Palace, whereas in reality, Pedro Porro might just be sat in a back five most of the game. And actually, an open play might not get forward as much as we would hope. So I'm a little bit torn on that decision. But again, my instinct in pre-season was to play Anderson. Although I've got Bruno Fernandes in this team, it's not great having an attacker against a defender. I just think Anderson is the better pick between him and Porro. And there's also chances if he concedes that he can go and get me defensive contributions. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to stick with Anderson. I think there's a chance that I put Dubravka in instead of Sanchez. I think the chance of me putting Porro in is a lot less. And then making up the back three is Nico Williams against Crystal Palace away. Lost the clean sheet in game week 1. Not ideal having to play Palace with Mateta, Sarr, Eze, etc. But it now looks like Eze might go to Arsenal. So it might be that he plays his European match for Palace tonight and then moves to Arsenal before, the weekend's game. So it might be that Forest are facing a team without Eze. So that would make a stronger case for a clean sheet. I still think Crystal Palace will probably score in that game, but there's always a chance Nico Williams can go and get me an attack and return. So no need to panic too much on the defence. I wish it looked a little bit better, but it's not awful. And the only other option I got on the bench is Agbadou anyway against Bournemouth away, and I just don't see a clean sheet there. So Sanchez, Esteve, Anderson, Nico Williams is how I'm currently lined up. I might put Dubravka in. I probably won't put Porro in. So my midfield 5 is Salah, Palmer, Fernandes, Wirtz, and then Dewsbury Hall as my 5 million enabler. At the moment, the captain's armband is on Salah. But I'm a little bit torn as to whether or not I should change it to Palmer because West Ham away is a better fixture than Newcastle away. We know how well Eddie Howe can get his team set up and make them difficult to break down. We saw the Newcastle-Liverpool Carabao Cup game, for example. Liverpool were not great in that game. Newcastle played very well. And also, there's a little bit of added extra in this fixture right now because of the Isak situation. So that crowd is going to be well up for it, even more than normal. And I don't think those things necessarily have a huge impact on Salah's ability to score goals and get assists, but it might have a tiny one and maybe another reason to think more about Palmer. The problem with Palmer is he just doesn't score goals or get assists in the Premier League anymore, and he hasn't done consistently for quite a long time now. So that's also playing on my mind. And it's just always easy if you're unsure about captaincy to just default to Salah. It's been a strategy that's worked many times over many seasons. So I probably will stick to Salah. There's a slight temptation to move to Palmer. In terms of selling Palmer, I've got no interest in doing that whatsoever right now. I need to see a few more games before I make decisions like that. I've only got one transfer. I'd much rather roll it into game week 3 than sell Cole Palmer this week. And it's a similar conversation with Fernandes. Fulham away is obviously better than Arsenal. Against Arsenal, 11 defensive contributions came very close to getting the additional 2 points. His expected goal involvement numbers were not that bad considering Arsenal were the best defence in the league. I'm confident enough with him going into this week. It's not ideal he's playing against Anderson, but it is what it is. You're going to get clashes sometimes. And next week it's Burnley at home. And he'll probably be my captain next week. So he's got to stay. With Wirtz, there are some people putting slight doubts in my mind about whether or not he will start. For what it's worth, I think the chances of him getting benched are not 0, but I think they're pretty close to 0. I know people always say they've spent this much money on a player, they've got to play. I don't think that always applies, depending on the club and the price, etc. But in this case, over 100 million, are you taking him out of the team for Newcastle away? I just don't necessarily see it. The idea is that Gravenberch has to come back into that midfield, which he will, so someone has to drop out. McAllister, when he's fully fit and available, has to play, and you need Szoboszlai's legs against that Newcastle midfield. All that makes sense. So there is, maybe some reasonable expectation that Wirtz could be the one that drops out, but it could also be Gakpo, it could also be Ekitike. If Frimpong's not available and Bradley's not back, Szoboszlai could play right back. There might be a rejigging of this team. So I don't think the chance of Wirtz getting benched is 0, but I find it very surprising if he's benched. So I'm going to keep him. I don't want to panic after just one blank in game week 1. I know he's had heavy sales this week. That's not going to impact my decision. If I get to game week 3, and I've got 2 free transfers and I want to redistribute funds, Wirtz is probably more likely to go than Fernandes. Well, I'm not going to sell Fernandes before Burnley, and Watkins has got better fixtures. So Wirtz in game week 3 could get sold. I could downgrade to Reinders, then use that money elsewhere. But I want to do that with 2 free transfers. I do not want to rush into doing something like that in game week 2. So he will definitely be staying for me. But yes, I will be checking that Liverpool lineup on the weekend just to make sure he starts. And then Dewsbury Hall, look, it's not looking great up against Reinders. He is a bit cheaper, but it doesn't look like he's necessarily going to get anywhere close to his returns. But again, it's just 1 week. It was away to Leeds. Leeds played very well. This is their first home game in their new stadium against Brighton. It's not going to be an easy match, but I'm very confident in his minutes. I mean, he's going to play close to 80 to 90 most matches. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when Mikolenko or Asnu are back at left back, because Garner played left back against Leeds, and that's not ideal. In the pre-season game that Dewsbury Hall played, they had Garner and Idrissa Gana-Gueye like kind of behind him so Dewsbury Hall could get forward. Now, I don't know if that will continue to be the way they play once they've got a left back, because Grealish came in and played on the left, and Jai went to the right, and Alcaraz played 10. So if they're going to continue with Garner, Gueye, and Dewsbury Hall, that means Alcaraz has to drop out. I don't know if that's going to happen. Either way, I think Dewsbury Hall is in that team either as a 10 or an 8, and he will have some license to get forward in any of those positions. And he took a lot of set pieces, free kicks and corners. There was actually one corner which arguably, I can't remember which centre back it was. I think it was O'Brien. He probably should have scored. And all of a sudden, I'm sat here with an assist from Dewsbury Hall, and at 5 million, that doesn't look so bad. So I acknowledge that I'd much rather have Reinders in that spot, but I can't do it in one move. I'm not going to take a hit to get Reinders in. That's absolute crazy talk. And Dewsbury Hall, I still think there's promise for 5 million. Like in that same game, Stack took corners, got an assist, picked up defensive contributions. He is probably better than Dewsbury Hall. But I've made my decision now, right? There's no need to panic on it and rectify it with a wild card or a transfer or anything like that. I think after one game, people are making too many rash decisions and overreacting a little bit too much. So I actually think for 5 million, he could end up being one of the best options this season. But if I had the chance to go back and get Reinders, of course I would do that. But let's see how he plays against Brighton. I know on Sunday, there's 2 games on at 2 o'clock, Everton versus Brighton, Palace versus Forest. I also know I should definitely be watching Palace versus Forest. There's a little bit of added bite to that game as well because of the Europa League stuff. You know what I'm going to do, though? I'm going to be watching Dewsbury Hall against Brighton because that's the kind of guy I am, and that's what FPL does to you. And then up front, I've got Ollie Watkins against Brentford away, Strand Larsen against Bournemouth away, and Mark Guiu is basically going to sit third on my bench until I see some proper minutes from him. And I don't think we should be expecting that until after the international break at the earliest. At the end of the day, if Mayenda and Isidore are scoring goals, Mark Guiu is not getting into that team. And I know there was this talk in pre-season that as part of the loan deal from Chelsea, if they don't use him, they have to pay more. But if Mayenda and Isidore are scoring and Sunderland are giving themselves a chance of staying up, that's way more important than having to pay a little bit more money to Chelsea at the end of the season. So it might have been a mistake to start with him because that might impact when I can play the bench boost later on. But in a 3-5-2 setup, none of the 4.5 million forwards are guaranteed minutes. So I'm still happy enough that I went for him, but I'm not expecting solid minutes anytime soon. Watkins definitely staying. The news came out yesterday after I recorded the Game Week preview video that Havertz is out for quite a while. So Gyökeres's minutes should go up. And obviously he's got Leeds at home this week. But after that, the fixtures are much better for Aston Villa. And even if I bought Gyökeres in, I'm still not convinced I would want to captain him because I wouldn't put it past Arteta to just bring Moreno on to play number 9, like 70, 75 minutes into that game. A few people did say to me in the comment section yesterday that Gyökeres will probably stay on the pitch until he's scored because it's Leeds at home. Like it's going to be easier than having to go away to Man United. That argument did make sense. And I think with the Havertz news, my interest in captaining Gyökeres has definitely gone up, but not enough to use a transfer, I don't think. Not when the fixtures are better for Aston Villa afterwards. So unless we see some early substitutions or benchings for Watkins, I've got no issues with him really for the first 7 game weeks. And then Strand Larsen at 6.5. I think that price point and below, he will be the best forward this year. Like Thiago, Barry, etc., they might do well. Fulcrum could still come good, or I wouldn't be panicking on those players. I just think he looked all right against Man City up until Man City scored. And he does get into good positions. I think for that price, if he's on penalties, he's good value. So no need to kind of panic on that just yet either. Interestingly, I ran my team through the My Team tool on Fantasy Football Hub. If you want to sign up, by the way, 50% off at the moment. And if you sign up and don't win your mini league, you will get your money back. Terms and conditions do apply for that. When I optimize the team, it puts in Dubravka ahead of Sanchez and Esteve and Anderson ahead of Porro. I might go through with the double Burnley defence. I am just tempted to do it. One reason I'm tempted to do it is I think everyone will hate doing it. I think so many people will be put off. They'll put in Sells or Sells or Sanchez if they've got those players over Dubravka. I'm tempted to play both of them. Also, by the way, if you sign up, you can use the other tools like AI Transfer. So if you click on that, it will go through your team and suggest moves you might want to make, especially if you've made some mistakes in Game Week 1. For me, it recommends making no transfer, which kind of is along the lines of what I think anyway. Because yes, you could look at that team and think there's better ways to have set it up, but it's not a complete disaster on paper. Game Week 1, terrible, 46 points. But I look at that squad for this week, that is capable of doing really well. And so fingers crossed it will. I might put Dubravka in. I might captain Palmer. Let's see what happens. Dewsbury Hall, I need a return from you. Would be really nice. If you've enjoyed that, make sure to give it a like and hit that subscribe button. Check out Fantasy Football Hub using the links in the description below or scan that QR code on screen. And I catch you tomorrow for final thoughts.